see. Get up on your feet, rise up.
Welcome to the Drexel SEMA Show. Today we are going to have a conversation with a mother who has a great story about her son, who has gone through an ordeal that seems very simple, but it's a very serious matter. But today she is excited, to share his journey with us. And I'm excited too, because I've never really heard about this disease. And so this is also an educational thing for me. I'm also excited that her son is doing well. He's 20 and he's doing well. And this is a great story. And I hope that you are inspired. I know you will be. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Jestina Delancy to the show. And with that said, Ms. Jestina, welcome to the Drexel SEMA Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So tell us a little about Ms. Jestina before we get into your story.
Well, I don't think there's much to tell.
Really?
In the sense that everybody would know me. I'm Jestina Delancy, a single mother, single mother of 3, 2 grandchildren, and I'm a teacher by profession. I've taught a number of children. 44 years this year, so that's me.
44 years teaching.
Teaching, yeah, 44 years teaching, not 44 years of age. Of course, I look 20.
I like that. Yes. Awesome. So, tell us about your son, Dante. And Dante, start from the very beginning.
Well, Dante is my 3rd child, my last child. He was born in 2003. I never thought that the 3rd child would come along, but I had a 3rd child 10 years after my daughter was born. Dante, like, all babies, he was born, he looked okay and everything, but, just weeks after I took him home, I noticed that he was about an itchy baby, a baby who always itched. As a mother, you try everything, Emmon's powder, everything you could find to cool the itching and, that sort of thing, because you're thinking that it's just itch and it will go away.
And was it hurting him? Was he crying with the itch?
When he scratched, yes, he would cry. Yes, when he scratched, he would cry. Well, at the baby stage, it started out a bit, it wasn't as itchy like as it got, he got older, but it was concerning. And well, I tried my best for the first 3 years of his life with it, and at about 3 years, I took him to, the first dermatologist who came to the Cheshire Hall. I took him there and I explained to him that, I think something is wrong. And he said to me, well, all mothers, they are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that there was nothing really major wrong with him. And
but as a mother, you felt something was wrong.
I felt deep inside something was wrong. And the conclusion from him was he was allergic to insect bites. So I should maybe dress him more in long sleeves and long shirts. Wow, it's a hot place.
That's right. That's right.
So, well, I wasn't satisfied with that. But I continued with.
So you didn't dress him. You didn't put long clothes.
No, I didn't put long clothes on him. I just dressed him as a normal kid, because you don't want him to stand out. Although his itching caused him to stand out when he went to primary school, because at first I enrolled him at after he finished preschool, I sent him to the INC Pratt, a government school, and because that was the school I taught at for a number of years, so I sent him there, and the itching because it began to, at 4 or 5 years, it began to cause scars. And you would look at his legs and you would see like they had lots of sores, but it is just from the it's just from the itching. And, you know, I tried a lot. I tried everything. I took him to a second dermatologist, and there was no, that he couldn't see what was wrong. As far as they're concerned, it was just normal itching. And as I said, tried all the lotions, all the powders, everything else. But, you know, as he grew, and the itching became more and more. And sometimes at night he itched so much until, you know, when you get up in the morning, there's blood in the sheet. Sometimes I am up with him in the nights because he's itching, because I'm trying to soothe him and that sort of thing. After his 7th birthday, he was 7. And one day he came from school, and I noticed that his skin began to, it's like it was a bit thinning out. His veins and those things began to be exposed, and then I noticed it's also on his face.
Really?
So I said something is wrong with my child. So I took him back to the hospital, where he saw a general doctor. The general doctor, of course, himself wasn't sure what it was. So he said he was going to put him on to the pediatrician. The pediatrician, they did a lot of blood work, all sorts of blood work, and the conclusion was take him to Dr. Lightman at Menzies Medical Practice, where she was at that time, to do a skin graft. We went. Just as she took the little piece of skin from him, I got a call from Cheshire Hall saying, you need to come back. On returning, they told me they can see that there is something with his blood, but they didn't know what it was, so they had to send him away to a specialist to look at it further.
Wow.
And that was about November. And February of 2011, we took our first trip to Canada, sick kids in Canada. We were sent there by NHIP, Sick Kids in Canada, where we met with Dr. Kamat, where she did a lot of consultation. They did a lot of tests, even eye tests, heart tests, every test you can name, they did on my child. I remember when they were doing a procedure, and because, you know, traveling at that time, I was alone with him, first time to Canada and everything else. When they were about to take him away, my child, who was 8 years old at that time, and I wanted to cry. And he looked at me and he said, Mommy, he said, go downstairs, get yourself some coffee. I am going to be out and I'm going to be just fine.
Nice.
And, you know, that in itself kept me going a lot.
That's very encouraging.
And that was our first trip. We didn't get any conclusive results, but we were told by the doctor that what she's seeing is something it's called PSC. It's primary sclerosing cholangitis. Primary sclerosing cholangitis.
Okay.
It's PSC.
And what is that?
It is a chronic liver disease in which the bile duct inside and outside the liver, it becomes inflamed and scar. And once your liver becomes scarred, it hardens. And if your liver continues to harden, then it means that it is not functionable, right?
It can fail eventually.
It can fail, yes, it can fail. And because that's one of the reasons, you know, as I go along, you'll see that he had to every 4 months travel to Canada because they needed to do we had to do blood routine work in
So
Provo.
follow-ups.
And also follow-ups up there, because they had to keep checking to make sure that this hardening wasn't, these scars wasn't continuing, because once the scars continue, then what happens is that the passage begin to get narrow
Okay.
and blocked.
It blocks.
Yes. So when this happens, the liver, there's no bile, right? The bile builds up in the liver. The bile
So the liver can't function
right?
at the purpose which it's created for.
And it causes further liver damage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's no cure per se for this disease. What they can do is they can give you medication to kind of hold it at bay, to stop it from progressing.
Okay. Getting worse.
There is, of course, if it gets to the point where you can have a liver transplant, that can happen. But this disease is you can eventually die from this disease.
Yeah, so if your liver fails, I'm glad you brought this up, because I've never heard about PSC.
Yeah.
So this is very educational to me as well.
And it is doctors and doing some research on it, because after my son was diagnosed, doing some research on it, doctors are not clear. Scientists, they're not clear why or how. Yes, it's a rare. All they know is that the immune system reacts to some infection or toxin that can trigger this disease in people.
But for your son, though, it looks like he had it from birth.
Yes, looks like yes, yes, and it is also being taught that it could be genetically passed on. Right? But like I say, the doctors, this is something, because it's rare, they're saying that there are about 10,000 persons living with this kind of disease. Oh. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to jump ahead, but my son was able to go to various camps with children and persons who are living with this sort of disease. So he was able to see some of those who are like in his category, who are still functioning, and some of them who had liver transplant already, and some of them who are very sick. So he was able to mingle and mix and see what this disease can bring on. And I was thankful. I'm thankful for that.
How do you get to those camps?
Well, after we spent so many years going to sick kids in Canada, and we were told that it is a possibility that he might need a liver transplant. Then we went to the UK.
Okay.
We were sent to the UK, and the hospital where he was at, they more or less have workers who would work around like that, and then they set up camps. They have camps for various children, because there's the Liver Foundation, they have different organizations that would do these things, right? So it was not only children from sick kids, but they were children from other hospitals who came and went to these camps. And of course, going to these camps, it was not just like they take your children to the camp. You have to sign off, and you have to make sure all the medications are in place. Sign off the medication and everything. Like when my boy first started, he was on 13 different medications for one day. 13 different medications.
13.
Medications for him, even with NHIP helping out, was not...
it's costly.
Was costly. It was not cheap. And now he's down to about 5 per day,
Oh, wow.
which, I
Nice.
give God all the thanks and
Oh,
the
yes.
praise for, because, people don't know. People see you walking about, but they don't know your story.
No.
That is, my son is I think is a story walking around. When we look at where he is now, what he is doing. I was told that he should be pulled out of sports very early, when he was 8, when he was first diagnosed. You should pull him out. He shouldn't be so active and that sort of thing. And it was heartbreaking for me. And I said, Lord, I can't do it. I can't take him out. So if this is your way of taking him home early, well, I just can't. And we never took him out of any sports. He continued in his sports, and he's still in sports today.
That is great. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And so tell us now, you say he's in the UK now.
Yes, he's in the
tell
UK.
us how he ended up in the UK.
Well, after having to travel to Canada every 4 months, and we're thinking from 2011 we did that for about maybe 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
It was quite taxing.
So 5 years, every 4 months, yeah.
Every 4 months. And I just wanted somewhere where he can settle down, because he had to miss school and all of that sort of thing. And so as a family, I got together with my children and I said, I'm thinking about letting him go to the UK. My daughter at that time, she was teaching. She had a associate and a bachelor's in teaching, and she said, this will be a good run for me to go and do my master's.
Oh, how awesome.
So she decided she would go, and and it was just God working in everything, because
Absolutely.
we decided as a family that this is what we wanted. And then out of the blue, NHIP called me and said, we're transferring your son to the UK. So that was a blessing.
Wow,
And
that got to be God. That ain't no coincidence.
and that was God working in there. So my son went to the UK. He didn't finish his high school in the UK. He did forms 2, 3, and 4. My daughter finished her master's, and she wanted to come to Turks and Caicos. She is a Turks and Caicos Islander by heart.
Yeah, I'm glad.
She wanted to come back, to give back. So here it is. Mommy said, okay, I will go. I went there for 6 months.
You did?
The truth is, yes.
Oh.
I went to stay with my son for 6 months, and I couldn't stay. I didn't. It was just too dark and gray for me. So I liked the sun and the happiness,
I got you.
with the weather. So I said to my son, do you mind going back to Turks and Caicos to finish your high school? He said to me, you have to promise me when I finish high school, you're going to send me right back for college. I made that promise to him, because during that year, back to Turks and Caicos, I had to fly back to the UK to take him for his checkup, because now he was now on every 6 months. So I had to go back within that time. So he graduated from British West Indies Collegiate in 2020. And he went back to the UK to study. He went to Cardinal Newman College, where he studied a level 3 BTEC extended sports course, where he focused on physical education.
That's amazing. It's amazing considering the doctors tell you not to
Yeah.
get him involved, and here he is now, doing A levels or BTEC in those subjects. So when he went to Cardinal, who did he stay with?
He stayed with him, and I must give this is not a shout out, but I must say a big thank you to Claire Russell and her family, because they took my son in
Nice.
as their son, And I must tell you, she and her husband, they were father and a mother to my son for those 2 years that he was there.
Awesome.
Niclaire used to be I taught Niclaire in primary school, and
Okay.
I taught her in high school, and then we got together as teachers together at the collegiate some years before she went.
Is that
Yeah.
Parker?
So, Parker, yes.
Okay, Parker.
Russell. Yeah, so her and her husband, they were the family that took my son in for those 2 years.
Awesome. Well done.
And I must say, during the 2 years at Newman Cardinal, my son got distinctions throughout the 2 years he was there. Throughout the 2 years he was there.
You must be very, very proud.
Very, very proud. And during his time there, he continued playing rugby. He continued playing basketball. So much so that the Rugby Association here brought him home to play in the 2022
International event.
Yeah, it was the Rugby America's North Sevens or something like that in the Bahamas. So they brought him from Preston in the UK to represent Turks because he played with them.
Okay.
Yeah, and
glad to hear that.
so when he was finished with college, right now he is finishing up his first year at uni, where he is doing his Bachelor of Science with honors in sports coaching and performance at UCLan.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
What an incredible,
Yeah.
incredible story.
yeah. And he still plays basketball on the national team in Preston. He plays rugby for the national team, and he plays American football for his college. So
That is awesome.
I am so thankful because some nights when I first started this journey, some nights I just wondered how long is my child going to be with me, because when I look at all the medication and then when you read up on things, sometimes it gets you wondering what is going to happen. And I am so thankful that we have reached this far, and I can tell you that I'm still expecting great things. It's my son, and he intends to be some big time sports person.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Excuse
Yes.
my coffee. So, I know you say he's down to 5 medications. How is his skin now?
His skin is not as itchy as it used to be. He still has to go and do. Every 6 months. He still has to check into the hospital and to do certain procedures. And every 3 months he has to do blood work in Preston, because his hospital is not in Preston. His hospital is in Birmingham. He has to do blood work. They send it out. So they always checking to make sure everything is okay. So yes, he still has to take his medication. And the other thing with that is he needs to make sure he takes his vitamin. There are certain vitamins that are important that he must take. And I make sure that they are on my card and they go to him automatically every month.
Okay.
So he has it.
Right.
And
So you don't want to run out of that.
yeah, he always says to me, "Mommy, I'm taking my meds." I said, "Make sure you take your meds, baby. Make sure you take your meds." Yeah.
So, will he need a liver transplant eventually?
Right now, everything seems to be working okay for him. Only if, that's why they are monitoring it. Because if they notice that the liver is scarring more and more and more, then he will eventually go on the list for liver transplant.
Okay.
But his doctor, Dr. Kelly, she was a lovely doctor. Dr. Kelly said to me his liver was 65% functionable,
Oh.
and it doesn't make sense to interfere with this liver at this point in time.
No, but 65%.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, I agree.
So what you need to do is you need to just monitor it to make sure it is not getting worse. It's not getting more scars, right? Because the minute they notice that it's getting more scars, it's hardening, then they know that they need to look at some other alternatives for him.
Okay, that's very good too. 65%.
Yeah.
That's very good. What advice would you give to parents? I just admire the fact that you felt something was wrong with your child, because if you didn't follow your instinct and the child was not on medication, maybe he would have died.
Of course.
And so what advice would you give to parents when it comes to their children or their family members?
Especially a young baby, a young child, you have to be very vigilant. You need to make sure you, as a mother, as a father, you check to see whether or not there's any different signs, different things. It can be anything that is out of the norm. Don't just settle and say, oh, he's just itching a little, or he's just doing that. Keep an eye on it, and if for some reason it's lingering with you, you need to seek some kind of help, some kind of advice, and see whether or not it is something that you need to take in hand,
Awesome. I want to thank you, Ms. Delancy, for the story, and I want to take this opportunity to say congratulations to Dante, who's now in his first year in university. You've come a long way, and your mom, and of course, we give God all the glory. And this is an eye-opener for all of us. Sometimes we just, you take things for granted. Oh, don't worry about that. But Ms. Delancy, she continued to pursue the issue and get treatment for her son. He's now 20 years old. He's doing well, and he's in a field that doctors didn't advise him to go into. What a how ironic that is, isn't it? And so with that said, I just want to say thanks again, and thank you for watching the Drexel Steamer Show. I hope that you are encouraged and you are blessed. I certainly am, and this is something new that I've learned today about the PSC. Thank you.
Thank you.